Saludos amigos y amigas de Breaking News. Mira, estamos con un episodio más, un capítulo más. Que te habla Jorge Carramos Lugo. Aquí estoy con Enrique Fernández y Arturo Ferrer.
Buenas noches.
Y antes de presentar a nuestros invitados, queremos anunciar una cosa, que durante el programa, durante el episodio de hoy en vivo, live, vamos a tener, no uno, dos giveaways, dos giveaways, que ya más adelante vamos a decir qué es, pero estos giveaways tienen que ser mayor de 18 años, residente de Puerto Rico y tomar su carro, ir a la esquinita a buscarlo, el giveaway que se va a ganar hoy. Pues ahora sí, hoy tenemos dos invitados, no uno, dos. Nuestro primer invitado es el maestro cervecero de Ocean Lab, mi amigo, mi hermano, José Carlos González, mejor conocido como Che. ¿Cómo está, Che?
Estaba en el show, gracias a Dios.
Échame para acá.
Qué bien.
Gracias por estar aquí con nosotros hoy.
Y tenemos como invitado especial directamente de Yakima Valley, el dueño de CLS Farms, Eric Desmarais. Bienvenido, Eric. How you doing? Welcome. Thank you for accepting our invitation.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. So we're this is the new thing. That's one of the good things out of COVID is that's increased the ability for all of us to do stuff like this. So always silver linings. So we're glad to be here and got to know the Ocean Lab crew over the last couple of years, and it's been nothing but fantastic. Lots of energy, lots of fun. So this completely makes sense with the crew I've met.
Yep.
Thank you for taking the time to be here with us tonight.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we can get into the gist of it. Hops. So we're going to talk about hops, specifically the harvesting process for these delicious flowers that flavor and give aroma to our beer. So can you give us like a rundown, like a general explanation of what it takes for a hop to get from the vines to our glass?
Yeah, absolutely. So, a lot of people that haven't seen hops before, there's a lot of interest in how they get grown, and so I'll kind of take it from the start. Hops are a perennial plant, which means they come back every year, so they're fixed in the ground. We grow them on 18-foot tall trellises, kind of similar to a grape trellis, but 18 feet tall. So a lot of infrastructure in the field. So there we got a picture going right there, and so this is of one of our proprietary varieties called Zappa. And so this is a variety that's native to the Southwest United States. It's its own species. Actually, it's classified as a Neo-Mexicanus hop. So as you can see it from the pictures here, the trellis and the wire work are 18 feet tall, and so there's about 900 plants per acre. And there's two core yarn strings that come down to each plant. Those strings have to be physically put into the field every year. So we have what's called a twining crew, and that happens in March. And so that's one of the big activities in the springtime. So the twine gets put down, and starting in about mid-May, the plants will start actually climbing the string. And we manually assist them onto the string. We'll wrap them. They'll grab themselves to a degree as well, but just it helps the crop if they get manually strung as well. But so between May 15th and maybe the end of July, really about an 8-week period or so, 8-9-week period, the plant basically goes from ground level all the way up to 18 feet. So it's an incredibly fast growing plant, and On really good days, it can grow as much as 6 to 8 inches a day.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. So they get to the top of the wire around the 1st of August, and then they actually flower. Not a flower, we call it blooming, but it's not a bloom like a flower bloom, like a rose bloom or something. It's just a light green small flower, and that flower actually turns into the cones, which you can see on the picture right now. And those cones are what actually, and then the lupulin inside is the yellow material, and that's what's actually flavoring and bittering your beers. And so generally by August 10th or so, the vine has made all the cones, and then we're just waiting for the cones to ripen. And so get a certain level of aroma, a certain intensity of aroma. And so as you can imagine, we also have a large infrastructure of equipment that harvests the crop. And so this is in the field, what you see in the field. And so this is what we call a top cutter, and it automatically cuts the vines, and then the vines fall into a trailer, and then the tractor and trailer from there takes the vines, the 18-foot tall vines, and brings them to a stationary harvester. And the stationary harvester, I think we've got a picture coming up here pretty soon. And so the stationary harvester actually separates the cones from the vine. And so when those, because the cones are what the brewers are wanting, and so then the machinery separates the cones from the vines, and then also cleans them of any leaf or vine material. So what you end up with just pure cones. And so you can see on the picture on the video here, right here, this is our machine. And so the vines are hung upside down, they go up, and then they come through the machine, and the machine, as I said earlier, separates out the cones from the vine. And I think on this video we're gonna see in just a second some of the other machinery. So they come around, they swing around, and then they get fed into the machine. And so this part of the machine, what you're looking at here, is actually the process which removes the cones and then also separates them from the leaves. So at the end of it, you end up with pure cones out of this. And then the equipment and machinery is really effective. Does a really good job of really getting it down to pure cones. So after it leaves the harvester, the harvesting machine, we push it over into a building we call the hop kiln, and the kiln has to, we have to dry the hops down to 8 to 10% moisture, and that gets them in a stable form that brewers can use, or they can undergo further pelleting. And so here on this video, what you're looking at is them coming into the kiln, and so hot air is blowing up through the floor material there into through this bed of hops. And as you can see, this long building here, this is where they're dried, and they spend about 8 to 10 hours over here drying. And then after they're fully dried, then they move over to a third building, which is what we call the baling room, and they spend another 10 to 12 hours over there. And what they do is what we call condition. They settle down, they cool down, and they become really stable at that point. And then at that point, we compress them into 200-pound bales. And this is the picture of that right here. So that's just pure hop cones that brewers are going to use. This is in the conditioning process where they're just going through. They're kind of just settling down, and hops just need time and space to settle down. And so they end up after this into a compressed 200-pound bale, and then at that point we move them on. That's a picture of the bale right there. And so then from that point on, we move them to the cold warehouses, And then typically most brewers are using pellets or using hop pellets, not hop cones. And so they go through a further processing point at that time where they get turned into hop pellets. So this is a good picture of the Ocean Lab crew last year in front of a big pile of hops.
Saludos, Edgardo. Te queremos, Edgardo. Saludos.
Nice. Roughly, do you have an estimate of roughly how many pounds of hops you're processing in every run that you're doing?
Yeah, like per harvesting facility, we're doing about 50,000 pounds a day of machines or of bales, and so we have 2 facilities. So roughly, our farm is roughly 100,000 pounds a day.
And how long is as I understand, the hop harvest is a really short period of time, right? Every year.
Yeah.
So roughly how long do you guys work for every year?
Yeah, it's about 35 days, and 35 to 40 days is typical. And so we have that's why one of the reasons why you see a lot of different hop varieties is because each hop variety has a small window of when it's ripe. And so our machines can't harvest all of it in 3 days or 4 days. And so that's why you have varieties, a wide window of varieties, so we can harvest over a 35 or 40 day period. So having that variety profile, that variety window, helps us be more efficient with our harvesting process, lets us have less machinery, and that machinery is really expensive, and that all translates into being able to have cheaper, more reasonable product for you guys.
Eric, I never asked when we were visiting you. Do you take that into consideration when you're planting? Do you plant some varieties first as to give them more time in the vine, or it's just random, or how does that work?
You mean as far as what we decide to plant?
As far as, like, let's say, is there any variety that benefits from being longer in the field?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
for sure. I mean, if you got a hop that's too early, that's harvested too early, its aroma can be muted, and it's typically not what craft brewers are wanting to see. They're wanting to see stuff that is more deeper into its maturity window. So we at CLS, we work really hard at trying to harvest as much as we can deeper into the window, because it just provides more punch for aroma, and that typically is what craft brewers for sure are wanting.
Awesome.
How hard has it been this year compared to with the whole virus thing? Has it affected you guys at all, or are you running like normal?
I mean, the virus, every part of the world had different rotations on how it came, and for us in Yakima here, our peak was in more June and July, and so that was a little different than other parts of the world. So the early part of the year, it didn't really cause too much problems. We had our peak in June, and we implemented some real aggressive procedures right off the bat, and we took it really serious because we just knew that if our crew got sick and as transmissible as the disease is or the virus is, that it could really cause us production problems. So we got really aggressive and early on how we were dealing with it, and we got all the way through the growing season and harvest with only one confirmed positive employee. So we felt really, really good about that. So I think we were able to navigate it pretty well. It did increase our costs, it changed a lot of things, and it changed a lot of the way we had to do things, but we got through it pretty well on that front. The crop this year, there was more acres in the ground this year, but the crop's actually going to be smaller. We had 2 really, really large windstorms that came through during harvest, and those windstorms did quite a bit of damage to the crop. And so the crop was actually is going to end up being the smallest crop that the United States has picked since 2016. And so while that's not great to bear and deal with at the moment, there has been, beer production has slowed down due to COVID worldwide. So I do think it's kind of going to end up being a fairly balanced situation. So having too many hops can be as problematic as having too few, even for brewers, which sounds kind of funny, but it just creates these really not so great dislocations in the market. So all in all, it was a challenging harvest, not due to COVID, but just due to these windstorms, and there was a lot of fires up here as well. And the fires created some issues as well. So definitely a challenging harvest. Glad to be through it. So we're all looking for some peace and quiet for a month or two here.
Eric, I have a question for you. How do you make the experimental hops, the breeding process to make an experimental hops, then to give the name from the experimental? How is the process?
Yeah. So I mean, we worked with a gentleman in Southwest United States, and he collected a lot of native wild American hops, and so we found him about 10, 12 years ago and went down, spent some time with him, liked what we saw. So we actually bought his whole collection, and 60, 70 different varieties in that collection. And so we got him moved up and then spent some time working with them. And so new varieties so that's where we acquired the bulk of our proprietary varieties. And but breeding hops is not terribly challenging either. I mean, it just takes more time. The actual aspect of getting new varieties is actually pretty easy. It's really just a boy hop and a girl hop, and that sounds.
So every hop that you have, like say El Dorado, was an experimental hops once, right?
Yes, it could have been, or sometimes they're found as mutations within the field.
It's a mutation.
Yeah, and so natural mutations, and so the cones are female, like the hop. What we harvest for brewers, only the females have cones on them, and so the males they just have pollen. They look completely different. They're not brewing, and so almost every cone or every third cone has a seed in it at harvest, and those seeds every seed is its own unique hop variety, its own special hop variety. And so it's really no more complicated than that. So you put a boy hop in with a girl hop, you get a little seed. That little seed is its own unique person.
That's nature. That's nature, right?
Yeah. So the breeding process is it's a little more sophisticated than that. They've identified females with X amount of traits, males with X amount of traits, get them together, and usually, if you have a 6'10" dad and a 6'8" mom, it's good bet you might have a 6'9" kid. So it's those kind of, they've been able to get pretty sophisticated in how we're managing that. And so that's the process. And so for us, as far as naming them, I mean, we put a lot of effort into how we name them, and typically the name means something for us.
Yeah, it's a creative process.
Yeah, so in El Dorado, we named it, when you actually break open an El Dorado cone, the lupulin, the gold part inside, literally looks like gold. It is the deepest, intensest yellow of any hop variety you'll see.
Gold nuggets.
Yeah, gold nuggets. And so we got there with that one.
Was that the photo that we had?
I think so.
That's El Dorado.
Yep.
The one that was
Yep, and you can see the intensity of the lupulin. We call it lupulin. That's the yellow powder inside.
Mm-hmm.
And so that one, that's how we got to El Dorado on that. So our other main variety, Zappa, our Neo Mexicanus one. So when the gentleman we bought the collection from in New Mexico, he had them all nicknamed. He had them numbered names. So he called Zappa was FZRM2, and so we didn't know. I didn't know what that meant. So one day I asked him. I said, "What does FZRM2 mean?" Well, R means Rio. That's a male. That's a wild male he found. M is Medusa, which is is the female. So he crossed Rio male and Medusa M to get this offspring. So I asked him, well, what does FC mean? Well, he goes, well, I like Frank Zappa, so
why not?
So we got Tom Nielsen from Sierra Nevada. He traveled down there with me. He ended up being this big Frank Zappa fan as well. And so we worked with the Zappa Family Trust and got it. They were able to license it and trademark it and license it to us. And so, we try all of our hop names that we come up with. Everybody around here names them after the Cascade Mountain Ranges. And,
Yes.
I mean, us personally, we're trying to come up with some very unique names that have some deeper meaning to the hop. So
Eric, El Dorado is your best seller, right? Your best.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. El Dorado is cracked the top 10 in the United States, variety wise. And so it's really finding its traction in space in these hazy IPAs. And so, although it's very useful in any beer style, it's also really dual purpose. So it's higher in alpha acids, and so it can work on kind of the bittering side really well, and it's got really great aroma. So it tends to give brewers a lot of open doors. And so, I kind of think that's really helping its popularity as well. So
since we're talking about El Dorado, I'm gonna go ahead and crack open one of these babies.
So we are going to talk about the Hurricane Harvest Ale of this year. Now I will change to Spanish. So ahora vamos a estar hablando un poquito de la Harvest Ale de Ocean Lab, el Hurricane Harvest Ale 2020, que este año el lúpulo que escogieron fue el Dorado. El hop, fue un Hop Harvest. Espérate, Chef viene por ahí para que Che nos explique por qué escogió el Dorado y por qué escogió el Dorado y por qué se llama Hop Harvest, por qué a qué se debe, qué es lo que pasa diferente a una cerveza de todo el año de Ocean Lab versus esta. Si nos puedes explicar un poco por qué escogiste el Dorado y el proceso.
Mira, esto nosotros lo comenzamos hace varios años atrás, que fue el año de María, que fue ese año agridulce. En esencial lo que queríamos traer era traerle al consumidor boricua pues, que puedan probar estas cosas que se dan todo el tiempo en Estados Unidos. La gente tiene acceso a esto, el harvest está cerca, está a millas de la finca. Entonces, pues nosotros nos acercamos por primera vez y fue como que un big no podemos hacer esto, no podemos lograrlo. Entonces, las fincas estuvieron súper supportive en enviar el lúpulo y comenzamos con la primera Hurricane. Como dice Eric, el Dorado es un lúpulo que está trendy ahora, el Dorado tiene un point tropical. Nosotros queríamos ver cómo eso combinaba con la resina y con los fenoles del lúpulo acabado de harvest. Entonces, pues, ellos fueron kind enough con todos los problemas de este año, todavía considerarnos y sacar el tiempo para traernos un lúpulo que no haya sido tostado. O sea, lo que te estaba explicando Eric es el proceso que usualmente, por el proceso que pasa el lúpulo para llegar a ser peletizado y para llegar a ser utilizado por un cervecero. pero lo que ellos hacen es que justo antes de que entre el kiln, antes de que se seque, con todo lo que eso significa dentro del lúpulo, con la esencia del campo, ese lúpulo entra en unas cajas y se envía overnight. O sea, en esencia es todo un paquete de UPS overnight, y tan pronto llegue ese lúpulo, nosotros en la cervecería tenemos tanque ready, gente ready. Cuando llegue ese lúpulo se abre caja a caja, no tenemos máquinas para hacer cerveza que solamente sale una vez al año. Pues a manita vamos rompiendo el lúpulo para extraerle la resina, y esa resina pues se incorpora, se pasteuriza el lúpulo y se incorpora en fermentación. Obviamente no tenemos el lujo que tenemos con muchas cervezas de poder incorporar el lúpulo en otros procesos como lo es dry hop. O sea, tú no quieres guardarte el lúpulo, tú lo quieres usar tan fresco como puedas. O sea que siempre seleccionamos una base bastante simple, se le da algo de specialty. En este año fue Munich, se le echó algo de Munich simplemente para balancearlo, para darle algo de dulzura. En este caso era un backbone tipo IPA, y se le echaron 150 libras de la mata rota que se había pasteurizado, se entraron en fermentación. Así que eso es lo que están probando aquí, es frescura pura.
¿Cuándo Ocean piensa lanzar esta cerveza al mercado?
Mira, esta cerveza está lanzándose en preventa mañana, de hecho. Okay. Todo mañana. O sea, que ustedes en esencia han tenido una primicia, están probando lo que ha salido. Esto es lo nuevo de lo nuevo para Ocean Lab.
Aprovechen y compren la Fresh, que ese es el punto de este tipo de beer.
Director, pónchame un momento que tengo que decirle algo a los que nos están viendo. Este director está, mira, pam, estamos aquí. Y ahora vamos a hacer un giveaway, porque así somos regalones, nos gusta regalar cosas. Y a la primera persona, no, todavía no ponché la pregunta, la primera persona que conteste la siguiente pregunta se va a ganar un 4-pack de la Hurricane Harvest Ale con el lúpulo El Dorado 2020, que la puede ir a buscar desde mañana en la esquinita. Ya saben, mayor de 18 años, residente de Puerto Rico, ya ir a buscarla a la esquinita. Ya saben, la primera persona que conteste la siguiente pregunta se gana el primer giveaway 4-pack de la noche, el primer 4-pack de la Hurricane Harvest de El Dorado. Mírenlo aquí, El Dorado. Señor director, poncha la pregunta.
Ting, 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 ting.
Vamos a ver quién es el primero en contestar.
What is the name or the scientific name of the hop?
Humulus lupulus.
No.
We gotta ship a 4-pack to Eric.
You won.
Yeah.
We have to ship
one question.
We're gonna ship the 4-pack to Eric in Yakima Valley.
We will.
Señor director.
We have to do that. He's always super welcoming with us.
It's his hops. I think it's the least we can do.
Anda, mira.
Salieron varios ahí de momento.
Hey.
Anda, el ganador es Ramón Torres. Aplauso, please.
4-pack de
a 4-pack.
Hurricane Harvest.
4-pack de la Hurricane Harvest. Ahora empezaron todos a contestar.
Salieron ahí. Eric, going back to I have a question about more homebrew side of things for hops. When you were talking about the experimental hops, like how long does it take? Like how long have you had your hands on a hop that we as homebrewers start seeing with the little like experimental and the number? Like when that gets to pellet size, like 1 ounce packets, how long has that been since you?
Yeah, I mean, it's typically 5 to 7 years before you're going to see.
Wow.
What's one thing that's changed a lot in the say 90s and mid 2000s? breeders and growers and dealers wouldn't release a variety until they were absolutely sure it had this and had that, had the name, had the market and everything. Now everybody's willing to release it earlier with just its number to kind of, especially to test it out a little bit. So you're going to see you're seeing it much quicker. And so, but even with much quicker, that's still 5 years. I mean, it's five to seven from when that hop was crossed until you see it in a home, and until you see it with the number on it, it's 5 to 7 years. So,
and I see that it's popping out these experimental hops in the homebrew shops. It's like they don't have any characteristic from the hops. They sell the hop maybe as some kind of little perspective of the hop, but they say if you see something common or something of the hop, some characteristic, you can tell us so we can put it in the
a demo version.
Yeah, it's like we're giving you samples. Yeah, it's like this is a sample, but you're gonna tell us what kind of hop or what are the characteristics of the hop.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think what's happened is like home brewers in the past were always kind of way down on the chain of getting new varieties, but now they actually, I think everybody's working pretty hard to actually get it into home brewers' hands quicker, and actually because home brewers, have the ability anymore with Zoom and all these different ways and social media to really talk a variety up. And so we, if we have a new variety, even if it's still a numbered or an experimental, we're getting it quickly to home brewers. And I think most others are doing that. So if, in a kind of a weird flip of the world, home brewers are getting access to experimentals much quicker than they ever were in the past, and it's not always just what's left over kind of stuff.
It still sounds like a lot of time. I wasn't expecting 5 to 7 years.
Yeah,
I would have thought it was a much quicker process, but that's crazy. How long does it take for something like one of your, like El Dorado, one of your best sellers? Like, how long did you play around with that until you were selling it?
We had since 1998, 99.
Wow.
Yeah, and so we kind of formally released it with its name in 2010. And so really, once you release it and actually get some volume behind it, give it a name and push it forward, what we see is it's really about it takes about 10 years before it really hits its apex.
Wow.
And so we're 10 years in El Dorado right now, and it's hitting its apex. And so, it takes 4 to 5 years just to get it from being, say, a seedling up into a commercial planting, and then let's say it is good enough to quote release and put a name on. Then really it's 5 years to get it going, but 10 after that to really get it up and moving.
Oh.
And then typically we see by year 20, it's starting to fade out. So if you look at varieties like Simcoe or Amarillo, they were leadership varieties in their time, but they're about 20 years old. They've been commercially available for 20 years, and you're starting to see their popularity with brewers just fade a little bit. Still really important varieties, and it's not a knock against Simcoe or Amarillo. They're just after about year 15, 16, you start to see them kind of dive away a little bit. So a whole new generation of new varieties coming. The private breeding programs are picked up aggressive now, and the great thing is home brewers, you guys are going to see is just constant new innovation in varieties that you can have access to.
Awesome.
La pregunta que está abajo, Jorge.
We have a question from Ramon Morales. I don't know if you see it on the screen.
See, Lionel.
Yeah, we do.
A lot of people want to know.
So a little bit of problem with Puerto Rico. The problem is actually you could grow hops there, like the actual rain or sunlight or that part wouldn't. It's just more the day length, and so hops are a day length sensitive plant, and so the problem is that the days are too short. As you get closer to the equator, the day length is shorter. As you get further away, it's longer. So hops need to be grown in this kind of special, perfect latitude, and like Yakima just happens to be like right at that latitude.
Yeah.
And so hops will grow. They'll grow in Puerto Rico for sure. They just won't grow to a scale that would allow you to be commercially,
Available, yeah.
So they'll grow. They'll grow absolutely. They'll make cones, and on a small scale, they would do fine. It's just trying to get it up to commercial scale. So the advantage we have here is not only is Mother Nature, it's just our physical location with our day length that's given us a lot of the advantage here.
So it demands a lot of daylight, right?
Pardon me?
It demands a lot of daylight.
Yes, it demands, yes. But if you get too much day length, then that doesn't work either. And so, like, if you kept moving north, like say towards Alaska, the problem there, the proper day length triggers the reproductive cycle of the hop plant. So if you get too short a day length, it wants to go right to cone and bloom, and not vegetate. If you get too long a day length, it wants to just vegetate and never reproduce. And so you have just that perfect little area there.
Yeah, I think like Yakima, there's Oregon, and then this is Europe, there's Germany, have a Czech Republic. Yeah.
It's
the
all
same latitude.
Yep, it's all the same latitude. So the good thing about Yakima, the great thing about Yakima is not only does it have the right latitude, it also is a desert. So we have, I mean, where we're in Yakima, we're 6 or 7 inches of rain a year, and we're as dry as Las Vegas, and we're here as hot as Las Vegas. And so we have a desert really far north, which is a very rare, geography-wise, just a really rare thing. And so we can tell everybody we're special, we're smarter, we know how to grow the hops better. It's really just more of a function of
Mother Nature.
Mother Nature.
Yeah.
Juan is asking if you guys have a specific team to develop the new strains of hops.
I don't know if we have a team. That might be overstating what we have. But right now we're always looking at other new varieties behind us, and we have El Dorado, which has taken off, and then we have our Neo Mexican Zappa behind it. And frankly, right now, it's about all we can handle scale-wise. So we're focusing on those. We have several other things in the background that we're working on. We have a private breeder we work with as well. And so, we think we've got 7-8 more years of El Dorado runway. We've probably got 10 or 12 more years of Neo Mexicanos runway. And so we definitely are looking for that next great thing, but we're also mindful to be able to make sure that we execute really well on the existing ones we have. And so we're always out there looking for new varieties. We'll partner with other growers, as well. Sometimes other growers, they'll have their own varieties, but maybe they're looking for a partner like CLS to help scale it up and take it up to the next level. So we're always looking for those opportunities as well.
Eric, I have a question too. What is the difference from the Neo Mexicanos hop from the normal hop that we know?
So the Neo Mexicanos varieties really grew up in they evolved in Southwest United States, and they tend to have aroma-wise, they tend to have very, very, very unique aromas, not like anything you've smelled before. And so the Neo Mexicanos varieties have been used in breeding for the last 100 years. It's just, but what we have come to suspect is that the offspring from those breeding lines that exhibit the Neo-Mexicanus aromas have been tossed away, because when you read some of the history on breeding, they refer to Neo-Mexicanus aromas as being objectionable. Well, that was 40 years ago. So
Okay.
we're finding in craft brewers today really want objectionable. They want something new, unique, and special. And so the aromas we get are really, really different. Agronomically, they grow much different. They're dwarfing. They have a high tone to leaf ratio. They exhibit from a growing perspective, much different characteristics. And so it can be a challenge to grow as well. But we're learning every day, or every year, I should say, and working on them. But the aromas they provide are really, 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 really something that the brewing community as a whole has not had much experience with. And like I said, I think there was actually a tendency to suppress that, not some evil conspiracy. It's just brewers 50 years ago, 70s and 80s, say especially, weren't looking for those kind of aromas.
Okay.
So a lot of unique aromas in there. We get passion fruit. We're getting, guava, peach, stuff like that. Just not normal aromas that you're used to. So.
He said
different from the classic resiny, citrus, and piney.
Yes, yeah. It's not a citrus piney thing at all. And so it's funny you say that, because we see lots of craft brewers every harvest. We talk to them, and every brewer says the same thing. They go, "I got enough citrus varieties. I got enough pine varieties. I got enough of those. What do you got that's completely not even in the league of that?" Then we bring out our Neo-Mexicanus ones. Everybody's eyes light up, and they go, "Ooh, wow, that is unique. We have not seen that."
Get the passion fruit without putting passion fruit in your beer.
Yeah.
There's another question here from Adam.
Let's see. Even though you're in the right growing area, has more. Yeah. So that definitely has an impact as well. And so one of the other really great things about Yakima that we tend to see and hear from brewers is that Yakima has this really high intense heat profile, and other hop growing regions tend to be more maritime and a little bit cooler, a little bit wetter. And so the intensity of the climate, the intensity of the heat here actually produces more aggressive and sharper aromas. And so that's a big reason why Yakima has really kind of established itself as the world leader aroma hop wise now with craft brewers, is that intensity of the heat, it actually drives more intense aromas and flavors in the hop. So that's an important part. The intensity of the heat. Also, the other thing it does is it really suppresses the fungal diseases like powdery mildew and downy mildew. So that's another really big advantage. It doesn't do a lot on the aroma side, but it's a big advantage on the growing side. But
so it's like growing grapes, right?
Yeah,
you have to. Yeah, you have to make it difficult to the plant.
Yes.
To make it more excel more the aromas, and it's like not make the plant so happy. It's like
yeah, exactly. That's exactly. You have to almost induce stress into the plant to get those aromas to pop up. So
I know you're probably biased by your own hops, but do you have a favorite hop that you?
Well, it's important to do these things and not just always completely play. Well, I say play your own book with your own varieties. So obviously, we love El Dorado because it's got all these different boxes it checks. It's high alpha, great aroma. We love Zappa because its aroma is so unique and special that it's just nothing like it. But outside of that, the variety we it's not our proprietary. We don't own it, but we grow it. Is the one that probably the newer one that we've seen that we really just internally at CLS. We do a lot of internal sensory on all the varieties we grow, even if they're not our varieties. And so I would say Sabro probably has a lot of uniqueness to it. And Sabro is not 100% Neo-Mexicanus, but it's 50%, I believe, either 25 or 50% Neo-Mexicanus, and so it's got a lot of Neo-Mexicanus in it. And so Sabro is pretty unique and pretty fun from an aroma perspective.
It's a very weird hop.
Yeah.
The last IPA I brewed, I used a bunch of Sabro in it. It's a lot of coconut, a lot of vanilla. It's like, what the hell did I put in my beer? But I mean, it's cool, but it's just like completely like way different.
Coconut, it's like a coconut fiber of the coconut. It's like a woody thing.
It's very
it's a cool. Understands it's a lot of brewers tell it's a polarizing variety, and you got to manage how much you use. You got to be careful not to use too much, and but something that I mean when we're harvesting Sabro, you're harvesting Sabro. it's
Currently, Yakima Valley is the largest hop producer in the world.
Yeah.
Do you think it's going to stay this way for a long time?
I do. Yeah, I don't think that you're gonna see much slow up in Yakima's growth on the hop side. Typically a couple things that's happening, although it can be frustrating for brewers sometimes on proprietary varieties. The really good thing about proprietary varieties is they're fast. So the proprietary program is able to get new varieties quickly to you guys. Mm-hmm. The public program struggles a little bit. They're trying to get it up and moving, but and so the other parts of the world don't really have strong proprietary hop programs yet. And then the other thing that helps us out is we can get a crop year one. And so most other parts of the world take 2 to 3 years to get a crop. So there's a big engine here of new varieties get produced all the time. And then with the ability to quickly scale it and get it out there. And so, what we kind of look to see around the world, probably our primary competition would be Germany. And they're at this point still all their varieties come through their public breeding program. And so they're a little bit slower, it's tougher. It takes them 2 to 3 years to get a variety up. And so for the short to medium term, it's hard to see how Yakima is going to lose its kind of leadership position in the world here for a while. So, but a lot of that depends on craft growing globally, but it is going to grow globally. You guys are looking for that, so you guys are all in the first, second, or third inning to use a baseball bat. Pretty confident all you guys are going to continue to keep going.
So Eric, I have. Okay, no time.
So now, before we finish, we are going to the second giveaway question. Vamos a ir a la segunda pregunta del giveaway y el que la conteste primero correctamente, ¿qué se va a llevar? Otro 4-pack de la Hurricane Harvest Ale 2020 de Ocean Lab. Ocean Lab. Mira, ¿con qué lúpulo? El dorado. No va a ser, no va a ser el colibrí, qué sé yo, no. El dorado. El dorado es el que es. Y ahora, ya saben, la primera persona que conteste se lleva el 4-pack, mayor de 18 años, residente en Puerto Rico. Ir a la esquinita
¿Y qué le gusta la?
¿Qué más?
A la esquinita.
Director, pónchame la pregunta. Vale. Tírame el sonidito, Quique, ¿qué pasó?
Se fue a dormir ya Electric.
Y si ya ganaste, por favor, Ramón Torres, no van a contar.
Sí, no, Ramón, descartado.
Esto es una pregunta para homebrewers, fanáticos de la elaboración de la cerveza.
Mira, yo le envié esta. Juan Paquito.
Creo que tenemos un ganador.
Juan Paquito Rosado.
Ahí está.
Allá,
Eso es.
de show. Isomerización.
Juan Paquito ya sabe.
Four pack.
Juan Paquito, yo sé dónde queda la esquinita, o sea, él no se va a perder. Vas mañana a la esquinita, el día que puedas, vas a ir a buscar. Esta pregunta fue elegida por Che. Yo se la envié a Che. ¿Qué tú crees? Y dale para adelante, dale sin miedo. Dale sin miedo.
Yo veo aquí 2 preguntas más en los comments que quizás podemos sacar rapidito para Eric.
Dale.
Será interesante. Señor director, yo creo que sí. Tenemos una aquí de Andy.
Pero quítame. Ahora. We have
How many acres are currently under production?
At CLS or in the Yakima Valley?
in CLS.
CLS.
And then in Yakima.
Both.
CLS, we have 2 farms. We have CLS and our Weenass farm. Between the two of them, we have about 2,300 acres.
2,300. Okay.
2,300.
It's a lot of acres.
It's a lot of acres. We would have never thought 10 years ago we would 2,300 acres. I can tell you that.
Wow.
Yakima Valley. Let me look on my stat thing here real quick. I think Yakima Valley's got around 30,000 acres, something like that. I think along those lines. So that's just a little bit of a wag. I can look it up here real quick. But
another thing important of TLS, Eric is a 4th generation farmer. Hop farmer, so that's important also.
Yeah, you know, we're most of the hop farms in the Yakima Valley are multi-generational and
Family business.
Yeah, family businesses. Although we're all gotten to be pretty large farms, we are all family businesses. They're just
Nice.
that's just the way it is. And so, you know, the other really great thing that craft beer has allowed growers in this area to do is to get healthier financially. And you know, 15 years ago there was almost no youth, and the next generations were not coming back to the hop farms. It was a dying thing. And a really great, wonderful thing that's happened is been a huge injection of youth into the hop industry, and the next generation is looking and wanting to come back now. And so really one of the most grateful things some of us, I'm not old, but some of us slightly older hop growers are grateful for, craft brewers, is that you've given a lot of the family farms here the ability to have that next generation come in and have excitement and enthusiasm about it as well.
Nice. We have another question from Juan Paquito.
Yeah, so we're talking about using hop tracks and what are the thoughts about those over pellets. And so, you know, I mean, I think that the once you move into extraction plants, you're getting quite a bit more sophisticated technology, and the bigger hop dealers here who have the extract plants are really working aggressively to find new and unique hop extract products for craft brewers to use. And so, you know, we just think it's a natural trend. You know, the more you go up the chain of processing, extract is more efficient than pellets.
Yeah.
From a very raw standpoint, you know, as a hop grower, people think, well, man, you must want people to stay down in pellets because it's more inefficient. But you know, we want at the end of the day, we want a healthy, vibrant brewing industry, and if extract is a part of that and can make your business more profitable, and at the end of the day, that's what we want. So, you know, we're all for it. You know, and you know, finding how that can work into your own brewing process, and there's a lot of unique products coming now. There's a lot of work. There's if you go to any of the major dealers' websites, you can see very unique extraction products geared right for craft brewers. So.
Nice.
And the good thing is you still have to go through the entire process of growing these plants, so you guys are not going to be out of a job either way. So.
No. So we're like I said, I mean, it's when you're talking about the craft beer industry growing, especially overseas, and it very well could be much more efficient for our hops to find you guys overseas in an extracted product versus maybe a pellet product. And so at the end of the day, what's really exciting for U.S. hop growers is that our hops can find their way all over the world to craft. And I suspect extraction products have a role to play in that. So
before we finish, Che, have some words. Dale, Che, te toca.
Well, Eric, we're super grateful of all the welcome you have done for Ocean Lab at your farm, at your patio, and also I think Luis shares the same thoughts, and I think he summarizes that in a message he's sending you, and he says the following. He says, thank you, Eric, for being part of Ocean Lab success. We cherish the relationships we have developed with our suppliers and really enjoy our time in Yakima these past few years with your awesome group of professionals. You're really responsible for the great recipes we develop and deliver to our customers to enjoy. Sometimes brewers don't realize all the work that is done behind the scenes to get a hop pelletized. So we thank you for the dedication, artistry, and knowledge that CLS Farms applies to hop growing. You are a leader in the industry, and we are proud to have your products in our line of beers. And I agree, Eric. Thank you very much, man.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I want to return the thought back to you guys, and what I can't say enough is that categorically craft brewers have created positive change at our level, at the farm level, and made meaningful change here for us. And so our lives and our businesses are much better with you guys in it. So
Nice.
love your guys' enthusiasm, and we're here to help you and do whatever we can to sell lots of beer.
Perfect. ¿Algún comentario final que tengan, muchachos? ¿Algo más que quieran decir?
Estamos ready. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, Eric. Thank you for taking the time to be here with us.
Yeah.
Eric,
for all the passion and enthusiasm you guys show. It's
Eric, thank you very much for accepting our invitation. For us, was a pleasure, was an honor to have you here.
And stay a couple of seconds after we finish so we can take a screenshot with you.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Amigos.
That's the pandemic picture.
Eso es todo por hoy en este episodio live del Hop Harvest 2020 con Eric y Che.
El Che.
Gracias a los dos. Gracias a Ocean Lab
y la Harvest.
Por las cervecitas, por la Harvest que nos dieron. Más que agradecido, los giveaway, más que agradecido.
Y los ganadores pendientes para que busquen su premio.
A Emanuel, a Alicia, a Jerry, a Carlos, que no está, pero como quiera le envío saludos a Carlos, lo quiero mucho, a Che, que es mi hermano. Pero nada, ya esto se acabó. Así que ya, hasta la próxima. En Breaking News, Beer and Coffee, salud y pesetas. Y gracias. ¡Ay!
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches.